Good morning and welcome to Metalworld Channel. I am B.A. Chandekar, editor of Metalworld. We have with us Mr. Satish Pai, CEO and Managing Director of Hindalco Industries globally. And we want to understand from Mr. Pai the effect of COVID-19 on the industry, specifically on aluminium industry, and what the industry should do after COVID-19 pandemic is over. So let's go to Mr. Pai. Mr. Pai, what do you think the effect of COVID-19 on the industry, specifically on aluminum industry?
So I think the major impact of COVID-19 is going to be reflected on what happens with GDP and the general economy. So what you're already seeing is that economies around the world have gone through a deep recession. China, for the first time in many decades, is showing a minus 6.8% GDP in the end of their quarter 1. So I think what you're going to see as an impact is going to be that the consumption and hence the demand for the metal will be quite severely affected. Now the big question is this demand going to be affected for a quarter, 2 quarters, or is the impact going to last longer? And what is going to be critical is how governments respond to stimulate the economy and get the demand and consumption going again. So China was the first country to go into COVID and is the first country to come out of COVID. And their economy, the government is stimulating. You can see that the factories have started and the cycle has started again. So what is going to happen if I take now an overall year scenario and expect, like in China, a quarter and a half or 2 quarters of demand is affected? You're going to see the demand for aluminium this year going to be probably 6, 7, 8% less than last year. And last year anyway was a very poor year, if you remember. So what that impact will happen is that inventories will build up and people are expecting a 4 to 6 million surplus of aluminium this year. So you're going to get the aluminium inventories going back to the 2008-9 period. So the real impact, what will happen is that you will see LME, which is today around 1500, stay depressed till the demand picks up and the inventories go down. So that is really what is going to happen to the aluminium industry. You're going to be in a period where again you have low LME, high inventory, is this environment that we'll be facing, and hence many people will have to take decisions of do you curtail production, do you continue with your production, and then it's going to depend on how good you are on the cost curve, how efficient you are your costs low enough that you can keep producing. So the typical questions that we faced in 2015 and 16, 2007 and 8, we are back to that similar environment now. And I think that your second part of the question was, what can companies do? See, in these type of situations, your operational efficiency and your position on the cost curve is the most important. Because if you are efficient and your cost is lower than what the LME is, and hence you are cash positive, then you have that much more strength to continue till the crisis is over. That's number one. And the strength of your company's balance sheet. Do you have enough cash on the balance sheet to survive? Because you are going to be in a very tight cash situation and burning cash during at least 1 or 2 quarters during the peak of the COVID crisis. So I think it's the basics of manufacturing. How good is your operations? Where are you on the cost curve? How efficient you are? And how strong is your balance sheet? If your balance sheet is strong, you have cash, then you will survive. So that is my answer.
I agree with you, Mr. Pai. This is mainly for the main producers. But what about the processors and small, say, fabricators or extruders or rolling mills? What do they do, sir?
So look, all our downstream plants, we are more or less shut. So this now depends on when the government opens up the economy, and you can see that the first steps have been taken post April 20. So my feeling, now I'm giving a very India-specific answer. My feeling is that by mid-May, most of the secondaries will be in some form or the other starting up. And then it is going to take them a good quarter to do the full startup because they have to get their labor back, their demand cycle has to start. So I think that the smaller companies are going to be badly affected for this April, May, June. Hopefully from July onwards, life will come back to some semblance of normality for them.
Okay, and sir, what support does the industry need at this very crisis from the government?
Yes. So look, I'm on the FICCI non-ferrous committee chair, and we are presented to the government bodies. So I think that the first and important thing we told the government is provide liquidity and support to the MSMEs, because this is where the downstream sector of aluminium is, and they need to survive for the industry to survive. So we pushed the government very strongly that please provide liquidity, credit support to MSMEs. So that was the first demand that we had. The second demand we told the government is that be careful that as the Indian economy opens up, we don't get swamped by a huge import of metal coming in from ASEAN countries and China. So this, every industry has said and said, we need to make sure that because Chinese producers have already started and their whole downstream is already working. So I said we have to be very careful that they don't dump into India. The US, Europe is already taking steps. So the second step we told the government is make sure that imports don't go up. And the third thing we said is support the Indian producers from a cost basis. So they have already reduced the cost of capital by bringing interest loans down. But we said availability and cost of coal, because for aluminium, power is the largest, so 40% of the cost. So can you get the coal cost down? And the coal ministry has been extremely efficient and swift in responding. So the availability of coal, the pricing of coal, all that they are bringing down. But we also said there are many other raw materials like CP coke, pitch that are getting imported that have high duties. Can you bring them down? Can we make sure that road transportation starts again? Because road transportation in most of India has been choked. So we have asked for support from the government on the cost side. So three things: credit support to MSMEs, restrict imports, and help the producers to reduce their cost of production, which is government taxes, government royalties, coal costs, import duties. This is where we have asked for support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pai. Do you think that by end of this year now, we will see a very good and vibrant aluminum industry again in India by end of this year?
I firmly believe so. I think that, when you are in a crisis, you can very easily stay pessimistic. But I think that I have great faith in the Indian economy and the people of India. And I think that just like China bounced back, I have a feeling that why end of the year? I would hope by the next quarter itself, we start to see the Indian economy picking back up. I think the government is taking a lot of positive steps to pump in money, reduce tax, get consumption going. And I think that the players in the aluminium industry are also ready to do their bit to get the industry going again.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Pai. And
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It was nice speaking to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So it was Mr. Pai, and Mr. Pai, as you hear, was very positive about the bouncing back of the Indian aluminum industry. Let's hope the Indian aluminum industry bounces back as he suggests, and we will see a very vibrant industry by, if not end of the year, earlier than that. Thank you very much.